What's going on, Vapor fans? Today we're going to be talking about two sets of batteries that has been receiving a lot of hype out there. It's going to be the VTC5a and the VTC6. So exactly what is going on with these two batteries, what's underneath the wrapper, well, you're just going to have to stay tuned and find out because we're going to be doing a lot of graph time. Alright guys, so let's start off with the dive cam here, okay, and take a look at these two batteries. So what I want to just go on record to show, right, is that one is going to be 2,600 mAh, and the other one is claimed to be 3,100 mAh, okay? Now remember, both of these batteries are going to be claimed to be 30 amps, okay, but we all know that's not the case. How is it possible that, like, you know, from the VTC3, 4, 5, 5a, 6, they're all 30 amps. This is just a characteristic of Sony and their VTC series, okay? They're just claimed to be all 30 amp batteries. They are not 30 amp batteries. This is probably the only OEM batteries that are out there that, you know, I really can't go ahead and endorse and say, like, you know, they're telling the truth about that. But as far as the milliamps is concerned, yeah, this comes very, very close to exactly telling the truth about things. Now, as far as the 3.7, this is just what's printed by many companies out there, okay? And this label out here is basically for air shipping reasons. They have to be very clear about that. And the milliamp hours is what makes the most difference, because you can only have a total of X amount of milliamp hours per case, per master carton when it goes onto the plane, okay? They actually don't care that much about like amperage and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, okay, based on the graphs, based on charts, based on benchmarking against other batteries, that these batteries definitely are not 30 amps, okay? So without further delay, let's go over and do some graph time. Graph time. Alright, as always guys, we're over here at the Street Ball battery graphs over at the screen capture, and let's take a look at what's going on. Let's bring up the Sony batteries right now. Which one you guys want to do? VTC6? Let's go with VTC6 first. So the VTC6 battery, let's talk about its discharge, okay? So remember earlier when we had the dive down cam, it said 3,100 milliamp hours. So if we bring it over here, VTC6 discharge, we get 97.4. Now, keep in mind, okay, when I say 97.4, it is 97.4% of what it said on the battery, 3,100 milliamp hours, okay? So what do we actually get? We get 3,020. Not bad, not bad, okay? Getting 3,020 out of a promised 3,100 puts it at 97.4 and definitely gets an A grade from me. Personally, I think that anything above 96.5 gets an A grade from me, because you're getting very, very close to what it is promised, okay? However, for you guys out there who are wondering, okay, is this the new king of the hill? What's going on with this battery? So we're going to do that right now. Now we're going to go over to the overlay, and then let's overlay this battery against the other batteries, okay? So the first thing that we're going to overlay against is that the brown batteries, right? Because that's the only next thing that's pretty comparable. Probably the LG HG2 and the Samsung 30Q. So we got the LG HG2 over here. So here's the discharge curve for that, and it beats it out. The HG2 roughly gives you 2.908. But however, remember, okay, the HG2 only promises 3,000 milliamps, while the VTC6 is promising 3,100. So that 100 is what's really making the difference. And that's why it says 96.9% versus the 97.4. However, if you wanted to know actual numbers to numbers compared to these two batteries, then you're talking about, like, you know, roughly 100 milliamp difference over here with the 29.8 versus the 3020. Now let's overlay this thing one more time over to the 30Q. So again, we're going to the Street Volt battery graphs, and then let's check out what is it, the Samsung battery over here. So Samsung 30Q, and then the discharge as well, okay? So you're going to see that the Samsung battery over here is 2933, okay, versus Again, the VTC6 is 3020, so just under 100 milliamp difference. Okay, so very, very interesting, very, very close race between these guys at the end of how much juice you're really getting out of these batteries. Okay, definitely the obvious winner, the VTC6, but then again, the VTC6 is supposed to promise 3,100 anyways, right? So okay, let's check out the power profile of this thing. So over at the graphs over here, let's pull up the power profile. Okay, and now you can see the line that's over here. I love these lines because it really doesn't give too much away initially, because these lines are meant to be benchmarked against other lines, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to overlay the Samsung 30Q. Now the 30Q is a battery that, although on paper, okay, although on the wrapper it said that it is a 15 amp battery, but we have seen that it is a very overperforming battery and it can handle a lot of things. So this is something that we intentionally graphed at 20 amps. However, that doesn't mean that I'm going ahead and saying that it's a 20 amp battery. Not at all, okay? Folks, the 30Q is meant to be used as a 15 amp battery. It is an overachiever battery. It is up to you to use your own discretion whether you want to break those 15 amps or not, okay? I know from my testing and other people's testings as well, we have all seen that, shockingly, the 30Q is quite the overachiever. However, that does not mean that it is a, one-size-fits-all battery. It's not a magical battery. It's just a little better than what it's actually rated for. The rating on it is slightly underrated. That's all that it means. But that doesn't mean that you should go nuts with it, okay? So, showing you the line over here, yep. The 30Q, as far as performance-wise, is better than the VTC6. Okay, definitely. And just for giggles and stuff, let's go ahead and show you the LG brownies. Okay, the LG brownies. If you guys follow the show, I've always said that the LG brownies, they definitely deliver when it comes into the milliamp hours. However, they are definitely overrated, okay, and underachievers when it comes to the performance of things. Okay, so if we go over here and show you the power profile, this is the LG brown battery. Okay, and for also those of you who are wondering, okay, about maybe like let's say the LG HE2 and HE4, so we'll bring that up as well. So this is the HE2 over here, okay, and then also overlay to the HE4 battery. Excuse me, HE4 battery. Here we go. All right, and then show you the Samsung 25R. Here we go. Two Samsung batteries, and then 25R5 Mint. Boom. Okay, so as you can clearly see over here, the LG brownies is the worst out of the bunch, so we'll hide that. And then next up with the LG HE2s, I believe, is it the HE2? No, it's not, actually not the HE2. Right, VTC6, VTC6 over here. I should really rename this to VTC6 power. But what you can see from the line is that, like, it's not that great at first, but then it starts to perform very well later. So really, the next out of the worst should be the LG HE2, followed by the HE4. All makes sense. Okay, and then the 25R as the king of the hill when it comes to comparing all of these things at 20 amps. But again, remember, the VTC6 and the 30Q, they're not at I am not saying that they are 20 amp batteries. Okay, definitely use both of them at 15 amps. And here's the reason why. I went ahead and graphed the VTC6 all the way to 20 amps because of all the hype that I've heard. Okay, that this is a wonderful battery. It's going to be so powerful. It's going to be the next thing, and it's rated at 30 amps. So you have 3,100 mAh and 30 amps, and it just basically destroys all batteries. There's no point of buying any batteries anymore except for so I really wanted to see for myself, and then just give it that 5 extra amps, and let's see where it goes from there. And as you can see, it does very, very well compared to like the 30Q, but still at the end of the day, it's no 30Q, but it will give you that slightly, almost 100 milliamp difference. Okay, so you really got to see like what is in the cards for you here. Are you building a build where you needed to have a little oomph, little more kick, and you really don't care about that extra 100 amps? Then definitely the 30Q is the way to go. However, if you're putting this in regulated devices and stuff, then the VTC6 is going to give you that little added life. Okay, it's not by much, so I don't want people to go ahead and hold out one for another if you can't. Okay, if you're buying things online, then sure, absolutely, then do something like that. But if you're already at the shop and you need something immediately, please understand that all of these batteries at the end of the day is only a hairline better than the other ones. Okay, so I'm going to stress that again later, but before we do that, let's move on to the VTC5a graph. So let's move on from here, and then let's go to the Sony batteries, and then VTC5a. So the VTC5a, let's go over to the discharge. We've heard wonderful, wonderful things about the VTC5a, and here we go. Here's what I want to show you. Here's the thing, right? Now, as far as a medium range battery is concerned, most of us understand that the medium range battery is the 2500 mAh at 20 amps. So why is it over here that 2500 but it's only getting a rating of 96.5? Again, remember what I said, 96.5 rating to me is still, an A rating and definitely an A-bin battery. However, the problem in this scenario is that the VTC5a boasts a 2600 milliamp hour and not the 2500. So if it was at 2500, this thing would be definitely big thumbs up overachiever. But since it's only at 509 when it promises 2600, it's good. It's good. You know what I mean? It's very good. That's all I can say. I can't say it's an overachiever. Definitely not. So now you're starting to wonder, okay, if we overlay this battery to other batteries, what happens? So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Say we're using this in a regulated device and the power is not really going to matter that much. It's really the longevity of things. So with the LG batteries, let's go with your classic HE2s that basically you could get anywhere. So HE2 batteries, like so. Okay, so we can see like for the first, 80% along the way, these two batteries are very, very comparable, and then the HE2 is just going to fall short a little bit. So next we're going to go ahead and overlay the HE4 batteries. So here we go. Okay, so you can see that the HE4 batteries, the blue line over here, okay, comes very, very close. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and overlay the Samsung 25R. Okay, so here we go, Samsung 25R, and then 25R5 Mint. All right, so here's the half amp here. Okay, and then we bring this over. This purple line, this is going to be the Samsung 25R5 at half amp. If you see what's going on over here, okay, then we can see that the amp hour of this thing is 2543. All right, so although promised very, very low, right? Again, what I love about Samsung batteries is that they are really, really underrated for what their specs are, and you get a whole lot because they are overachiever type batteries. I'm actually, to be honest, guys, I'm very, very curious to ever find out like what a Type D or a Type E would look like had Samsung decided to, get into the market and make a 2000 mAh 25 amp battery and a 1500 mAh 30 amp battery. I really, really would like to see, what the testings of those would look like as well. I'm sure many other battery reviewers as well. However, okay, let's get back to finishing up on the VTC5a. So you can see over here that it is a wonderful battery, okay? For your mid-range, don't think about the whole 25, 26, like versus Sanyo versus this and versus that, okay? I'm telling you what you actually squeeze out of these batteries for every drop, okay? And if you think of this way, right, then you can see that they're basically, even though it looks kind of big of a stretch, this is all within like a little bit of a range. See, 2393 all the way to 2543. Okay, it's not that crazy, right? So if you're in a bind, if you're out somewhere, whichever one of these batteries, they're plenty safe. They're plenty, okay to just go ahead and pick up whatever you actually need. Okay, just know that, like, the ones that are better than each other, it's only very, very small difference. Okay, so let's move on to the power profile test over here. VTC5a. Okay, again, as always, I love looking at these graphs before it's benchmarked to things, because even I'm at a big question mark. I have no idea if this line means that it's good or bad until we put it up against other lines. So here we go with the overlay, and then let's go over to the straight volt graphs, and then LG-HE2 first. Okay, so power profile of the LG-HE2, very similar in the beginning. Okay, but it just seems as if, like, the VTC5a does well under pressure, under heat. Okay, so once we pass the 10 amp mark over here, it's still holding off well, while the HE2 is just like steadily dropping. So as we all know, the HE4 is the successor of HE2s, so it's definitely going to do slightly better, right? So here we go. Okay, as you can see, it holds up stronger in the beginning, but basically falls off nearly the same with the HE2. Okay, and then we're going to overlay the Samsung 25R battery. Okay, here we go again. 25R Samsung, 25R5 in mint, power profile. Boom. Let's change this thing over to another line color so it's easier for you guys to see. Okay, so we'll go to do the blue line over here, and as you can see, nice strong line with the 25R5, and you will be able to taste the difference between this and something like the HE4, because it's just enough so that, like, you should be able to taste the difference inside of mechanical mods. But again, once you put these things into the regulated devices that you can adjust and stuff, you can adjust the wattage, the regulated devices, there's not going to be much of a difference, not at all. Okay, so what am I saying about these things at the end? Well, let's come back up to FaceTime, and I'll give you my final thoughts and my final lesson of the day. So guys, what do I think about these green little genies? I think that they are great. They're wonderful batteries, but at the end of the day, they're just batteries. Okay, they're just batteries. The point that I really want to make is that, like, if you ran into Walmart, if you ran into any convenience store, 7-Eleven, something like that, right, and they didn't have Duracells, you're just not going to buy the energizers that they have, and vice versa. If you're here because you heard that Duracells are pretty good, you're just not going to buy the energizers. You're just going to get what you need when you're in a bind. Okay, now if you want to intentionally hold out for something better, then by all means, you could go ahead and do that. But definitely be very careful on the prices of stuff, especially with Sony VTC series. You guys know that they're very, very expensive. Okay, they're marked up much higher than other batteries are. But I've shown you the specs of it. They are good batteries. If you happen to have them, definitely use them. If you guys have already invested in them, do not throw it away. They're still great batteries. Okay. It doesn't mean that you should or should not buy them. You know what I mean? Because again, at the end, all batteries are just a hairline apart. It is way more important. It is way, way, way more important that you understand what the amperages mean, what the milliamp hours mean, and what it does for you, rather than like the hairline differences. I personally do the show and show you the hairline differences just to show you that, like, if there really is a battery out there that's like, wow, it's really overachieving and shining above all the other batteries, kind of like what we've seen in the 25R5 so far. Okay, and so far, according to all my testing, I haven't really seen a new king of the hill when it comes to the C-class series. But for those of you who need a D-class series or an E-class series that you need to move on to 25 amps or 30 amps or something, it really doesn't matter how good the 25R is, because it's not for you, So it's just that simple. learn your Ohm's law, appraise what is right for you, and then get the battery class that is within your range. Don't worry so much about the brand if you can't get a hold of it. If you're sitting at home online and you're able to do so, then definitely, if that bothers you, you know what I mean? If not, then you could go ahead and do the calculation for the price, for the money, or whatever, what is easily accessible to you, and then just pick up an HE2 or HE4. Because if you ask any battery expert, okay, they will tell you a HE2 or HE4 is still a fantastic battery. It's very safe. And what's most important is that, is the battery sufficient for you? Okay. See, the thing is, people forget, right, is that, like, let's say you need about 18 amps. All right. Getting a 20 amp battery, getting a 25 amp battery, the 25 amp battery is not safer. Okay. What you need is sufficiency. Every single time you pick up batteries, just get what is sufficient for you. Okay. And there's a big reason why you should do this. See, when you have a battery that runs 30 amps and you're only running 10 amps through it, okay, the battery is running very, very cold and not at its optimal state. So not only is it overkill, it's overkill in a way where, you went up and then back down on the spectrum, okay? And that's not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is for every single range at its optimal performance. So using a 20 amp battery when you personally need 18 amps, it's going to run it very, very nicely, and it's going to run it at a heat and temperature that is very optimal for the battery. The same thing, if you only need 14 or 15 amps, use a 15 amp battery. Only when you actually exceed the 20 amps and you're going into 23 and 24 should you actually be using a 25 amp battery, and so on with a 30 amp battery, okay? So that is it for our episode of the Straight Vote. Hope you guys learned something with this one, okay? As we say always on PVA, do your homework, question everything, vape clever.